Well, y'all, with the draw results happening or just around the corner, the season heat is happening. And what a better way to get the heat rocking than to have a show on elk calling and strategies. Whoo, buddy, do we have a show for y'all today. On today's show, we have the world elk caller himself, Mr. Travis O'Shea is in the house. And Travis is locked and loaded and ready for some elk calling and strategy talk. So hold on tight, y'all. It's going to be epic tonight. That discussion, our ElkBros shout outs, and great questions from our ElkBros mailbox. So, my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gilly. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy our show. And as always, for those blue collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, the host of your show, coming to you from Spring, Texas. And that's right, we've got the leader of the Venezuelan Mafia in the house, Mr. Luis Gonzalez from Katy, Texas. And we have the legend himself, Mr. R.C. Knox in the house from Cuesta, New Mexico. And from Cimarron, we've got your elk hunting coaches in the house, Leroy the Ninja Chavez, and Joe Gillia is in the house tonight. And pulling up a chair to join our crew at Elk Camp today is the man behind Wapiti River Elk Calls, the elk whisperer himself, world champion caller, and one of the most passionate elk hunters you will ever meet in your life. Our northern brother from another mother, Mr. Travis O'Shea. Welcome to Elk Camp.
Welcome.
Thanks, guys.
Wild.
Where's the crowd?
Travis, what's happening, brother Travis?
We pay clappers.
That's awesome. Yeah. The money just comes in the mail.
Hey, man,
Put the
welcome
clappers
to our
in when
Elk
he
Camp,
does all the editing, man.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hey, Travis, man, thanks for joining us tonight, bud.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. It's an absolute honor to be on here.
So everybody up in above that line across the United States knows Wapiti River, knows Travis O'Shea. But for these people down here that haven't heard, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Well, basically, I've been just kind of grew up elk hunting with my dad and my uncles and all them. And my dad wasn't really a caller, but way back in the day when I was a little kid, 13, 14, he bought me an elk reed. And it was, believe it or not, it was a Wayne Carlton yellow reed. And went out there, and I didn't know how to use that thing because I'm trying to learn out of a magazine, and it don't tell you everything in a magazine that you need to know. I didn't know if it had to go forward, backwards, upside down. I didn't know how it had to go in. So,
Right.
But long story short, I went out that whole elk season. I thought you could just buy a reed and go out, and Dad got me this reed, and I went out, and I never made a single sound that whole season. But I kept with it, and I learned it that next summer, and lo and behold, you wouldn't believe it, but I went out that next year, and I actually shot my very own first elk that I called in.
How old are you, man?
Wow, that's cool.
I believe I think you're allowed to hunt when you're 14 or 16 way back then. I'm old now, I can't remember, but let's just say I think I was 16. I think you're allowed to hunt on your own.
You killed your first elk when you were 16. You lucky dog.
Yeah.
Oh,
And the funny part is I don't put in for any draws. And that year, because I was hunting with my dad, he made me put in for the draw. So I actually got the antlerless draw is what it was called.
Uh-huh.
And so what I call it is a cow draw. I thought antlerless is a cow when I was little, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I called this what I thought was a cow in, and she come down this trail, and I played with her back and forth. Like she came right up to 10, 15 yards from me, right down the trail, face on. And I didn't know what to do with her. So I let her go, and then I called her back, and I let her go, and I called her back. And I thought, well, if I don't shoot this thing, my dad's going to be mad because we want meat in the freezer, right? So
Right. Heck yeah.
so I let it go back a little way. I had my 270 at the time. It's honestly the first elk I've ever shot with my 270 to this day, because I turned archery hunter right after that. But I shot this thing out. We were in the bush and it ran out to the edge of the field, believe it or not. And my dad and my uncle got over there first. I was kind of cutting through the bush, and they were starting to work up this elk already. And I was like, okay, this is cool. They're doing the gutting and all that stuff. And my dad looks up at me and he's like, wow, he's got nuts on him. And my face just went,
Oh no.
my face went white. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I'm in trouble. I just shot a bull, right? It's an antlerless tag. I'm thinking it's a cow tag. I just shot a bull. And he says, no, don't. He says, don't worry. He says, it's an antlerless tag, so you're good to go. So I was like, oh, what a relief, eh? So yeah. So then after that, I basically just kept calling with it and went with buddies and just learned to really have fun with it and play with the animals and just call in everything you possibly can, honestly. Spikers, cows, whatever. And that kind of led me to, I got better and better over the years. And then we did the Canadian Calling Championships, what we had here. And I won first place in the qualifier here. And then at that point, it's only open to amateurs. At that point, I had started making my Wapiti calls and selling them already. So at that point, I was a professional. So they asked me to bow out of the finals, which I was good with. They actually asked me to be a judge. So I became a judge in the finals, which was pretty cool. So you got to see that end of the spectrum as well. And then from there, we went 2013. I started calling in the World Elk Calling Championships there. Started out in Las Vegas, and now it's more in Park City, Utah there. The last 4 or 5 years, I believe it has been. So
So that was the World Championship in 2015, right? And
yep.
You placed third at those championships, right? Behind Corey and
yeah, I was third, and it was Brian Langley second, and Corey was first.
Yeah, man, that's some big guns right there, bud.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
Yeah, it's pretty fun going up and
company.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, the first couple of years you go there, you climb up on stage there. They got like 3 or 4 stairs you got to go up. And honestly, you're holding your elk reed in your hand, and it's just shaking like this. You're just, man, I hope I don't drop this sucker. Yeah. And then after you do it a couple of years, I guess, you learn how to really get your nerves in check, and then it's all smooth sailing after that.
That's cool. Our brother Cole, he was at the World Championship this year, and he said that was probably the biggest thing, was getting his nerves in check, being on the
I'm going to have to learn how to do that, because I still don't know how to do that when a big elk pops out.
I kind of just go in, I don't know. I kind of just go into this mode of, I don't even think about that. I'm just trying to not get smelled. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to make sure that I'm understanding the language better and better. I tell you what changed the game for me was really understanding why elk sound what elk sounds mean. You know what I mean? And learning the language. That made a huge difference. Could I make the cow calls, the mews, the bull mews, and all of those things, bugle,
Like Manano still hasn't even learned English properly, man. I don't know.
So for me, it was learning, okay, well, why is that bull making that kind of bugle? Why is that cow making that kind of sound? That kind of changed the game for me. And I don't know if that's helped you at all in your calling sequences or anything when you're even on stage. Because do they give you like a scenario that you set up?
Yeah, they do. So now it's all head to head. So they pick different sounds out of a hat, and you got to make certain cow sounds and certain bull sounds.
Gotcha.
But you still get your little freestyle for doing your bull and cow stuff at the end, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was a huge Rocky fan when I was growing up. So I always remember Rocky when he was in Rocky 3. He lost to Clubber Lang there.
Right.
And basically he's looking in the mirror, and he's kind of defeated looking, and all of a sudden he gets the eye of the tiger back, and he's looking in the mirror, and he's just
That's after his wife tore his ass up on the beach.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think we can all get tired of Tiger after our wife tears her ass up.
That's kind of how Beto's wife tears his ass up.
The
up
force
in the
is
mountain.
strong with that one, brother.
He calls her up in the mountain all excited about killing an elk. And, ooh, boy, you don't want to listen to that conversation.
So
She let the air out of you real quick.
So you were able to shake the nerves on there at what point?
I started going there in 2013. It was 2013 and 14. I was still pretty nervous.
Uh-huh.
And then I really amped up my training and my practicing and all that. And I went into 2015 very, very confident. So it shows when you're on stage and you're confident, it's a game changer. Once your confidence level is sky high, nobody can beat you. It's physically impossible. And so that's what happened. You go up there, you get that eye of the tiger, and you just tell yourself, do this. You got to get this done.
It's funny you say out of the tiger, but everybody kind of finds their own thing.
Yeah.
As with my daughter, my daughter's like me. We call it the vitulacus when we get the shakes and the buck fever, right? My daughter gets it bad. And so she found out that if she, for some reason, if she sings Ghostbusters, the Ghostbusters songs in her head, it clears her up. So what she does is when she starts getting the vitulacus, she goes in her head, she starts playing, Ghostbusters, and that just kind of calms her down. She makes the shot, and after the shot, she's a wreck. But it just kind of helps her through it. And in some of the videos that I've made filming her shooting, I'm like, calm down. I'm more nervous than she is, right? But I'm like, calm down. Remember Ghostbusters. And I'm even saying this in the video, right? And it helps her out. But it's just interesting how you're thinking the out of tiger. She's thinking Ghostbusters.
Look, Travis, it's just like father, like daughter. Because I've been with Luis a lot when he's out there, and we had this bolt coming in, and all of a sudden I started hearing this. I'm pretty.
Not true. Not true.
That's good one, Joe.
Joe, lying is a sin.
Oh man. Hey, Travis,
it's funny.
so we can really welcome everybody, man. Why don't you welcome with some cranks out of that bugle tube, man?
Yeah, man. Let's hear it.
Yeah, we can do that.
That's
So
awesome,
good,
man.
dude. So good.
I am a tiger. How'd you like that?
So, Travis, man, why don't you tell everybody about the call that you were just using right there?
Okay, so this here's what we have is the new grinder by the ElkBros.
What? Check that out, man. The new signature series from Wapiti River Calls, the ElkBros grinder.
Wow. And today, this podcast comes out on May 3rd. On May 9th, they are in our store and for sale, man. The new ElkBros grinder, dude. So this this has been a collaboration with the ElkBros and Travis O'Shea of Wapiti River Outdoors. He's been we've had conversations about this, and we talked about what our goal was out of the grinder. We wanted it to represent just that. We wanted to represent our grinders out there. And when I think about grinders, I think about guys that are going at it all day, that they're being, persistent, and they're working, and they're there during the morning, they're there in the midday, they're there in the evening, man. They're just work. And there's a lot of calls. Like you were talking, Gilbert, we were talking earlier, and you were talking about one of the calls that he has. It is just fantastic to call with. The pink, it's the heart call, right?
Yeah, the heart.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, right out of the box, it's so sweet because, you know, it has that light single latex. It's really great for cow calls. But the problem is when you get some of those calls that are so sweet coming out with the thin latex and the stretch, that if you start cranking bugles on it, then it'll start to break that down, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what we wanted a call that, like our grinders, man, could be out there working, could do bugles, and as you did that was actually going to get sweeter on the cow calls.
Yeah.
So you've had that for a little bit there that you've been screaming on it today. Let's hear some cow calls out of that, Trav.
Yep, sure.
So I think I did
Yeah.
that myself. Did anybody else?
Go get my bow real quick.
I gotta go shut the gate. The elk are coming in the gate.
Yeah.
So that is the grinder, man. Go ahead and pop another bugle on that one for us, bud. That's awesome, man. And everybody's actually so he's using that tube and he's actually blowing away from his microphone. So you're not going to hear how loud that is out there, but man,
Yeah.
you hear the beauty of that. So that's the grinder call, man. And Travis, man, I thank you for working with me, for making this this dream a reality. We're so excited about that, bud.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been it's been a fun go with it too, because you know, getting to play with different latexes, and I sent you a whole bunch of reeds to try and see what you liked and what you don't like, and then finally settling on this one here. Man, it's been a fun time for sure.
Travis, can you bring that up to the camera again
Yeah.
and explain what the little
check
little
that.
notches right there?
That's the W
So-
for Wapiti River.
Yeah, so the little notches there.
Those
Basically-
notches are the first thing that got me to call Travis, because when I saw his call, I looked at that and I said, somebody is thinking. And explain why, Travis.
So my dad always, as a new caller, my dad had a gag tendency, and basically I thought, well, why is he getting that? So I really looked at how he was putting the reed in and what he was doing, and I realized the back of the reed was just kind of bunching up a little bit. So I thought, well, I'll just cut a little V in this and relieve it a little bit, and so that's what ended up happening. We cut the notches out. It was just a V to start.
Mhm.
Now you can see it's actually the W for Wapiti now, but now your sides all fold independently.
Yeah.
So it kind of stops all that gagging. It actually seals to the roof of your mouth a lot better and a lot easier and quicker. And once you have it in your mouth, it actually takes the shape of the roof of your mouth. So like all of us are a little bit different how it fits, but it'll take that shape all the way around. And then that seemed to really help with the guys that had the gag tendency and everything as well. So it doesn't take all of it away, obviously, but you know, when you're starting out, it definitely helps a lot. So you get that air going across the bottom of the latex where it has to.
Right.
Now you get sound instantly from it.
Well, that's where one of the things, like in our academy on our base camp in the calling section, you know, I've talked with so many callers that were getting the noise when they were trying to call, and they weren't quite getting that there, and they were struggling with that reed on the top of their mouth. And I'd say, you know, I want you to take it out and I want you to look at it. Are there any folds in the latex? I mean, not the latex, I'm sorry, but in the tape, right? Are
In the
there any
tape.
folds in the tape? And they were like, yeah, there's one on each side. And I said,
Yeah.
I want you to get some scissors and I want you to
Cut
cut
it
a
out.
notch and notch those out and then put it back in your mouth. And they
Yeah.
did that, and they were like, man, how did you know? And again, that's, you know, what I saw when I saw your call was somebody knows somebody's been using a lot eyes, right?
Yeah. Well, I think because I went through it when I was a little kid too. Like, I was spitting and gagging, and my eyes were watering. There was tears coming everywhere. Yeah, it was
Well,
bad.
I think I told you, no matter what call, whether it's a Primos, Phelps,
Doesn't matter.
Warren Carlson, it doesn't matter. I have to trim all mine. Your call is the only call I've never had to trim.
And
And
now
I mean,
it's your
when I-
call, bro. It's your
Yeah,
call
now it's our call.
There
So
is.
we're so, man, we are so honored to that you would allow us to put our logo on one of your calls, brother.
Yeah.
Very humbled that you would allow us to do that,
So,
man. Thank you.
on that note, and not, we don't have a script. Really, never had a script on this show. But if we do, I want to get off the script. And Joe knows how I like to make parentheses, right? So I want to make a quick parentheses, right? And because I'm listening to this whole conversation, I'm actually reflecting back, and I have a little bit of help to reflect back, right? So I'm reflecting back, and I'm thinking, 2 years ago, and I'm thinking, a lot to you and Chav, Joe, what you guys have accomplished, and Beto, and the consistency with the show. And man, it's just unbelievable to think that out of just a group of friends hunting together, 2 years later, there's an online academy. There's a show that shares knowledge with the public, that, the feedback that we get from people, and how much they've learned and picked up from this show, how much they've changed their lives, been inspired by the show. We have our own camo. We have our own merchandise, T-shirts like the one I'm wearing today,
That 10%
right?
club,
Hats,
yes, sir.
a 10% club. And now, it just keeps growing and growing. We have the ElkBros adventures, and now you were able to offer hunts to people to come hunt with us, and again, the academy, to be able to offer coaches. And now we have our own call. We have the soloist, our ground tube. It's just unbelievable. I'm just sitting here in awe, like, wow, it's amazing. And so, if anything, I just want to say congrats, Joe, because what you and Chav and Beto have achieved is unbelievable. So,
Well, I look up to our heavenly brother up there in the sky, Carl Gamage. It's all spawned from him long ago. Taking a chance on a fat boy from Texas and letting him come up here and elk hunt. And man, I'm just like I said, very touched and very humbled.
yeah. And with that, I close the parentheses.
Very touched, very
cool.
humbled, man. And we've had kind of a vision, and we've gone down some roads, and COVID took us on a little detour, and Chav's had some minefields he's had to navigate. He whooped cancer's ass back, and kept it off of him. We love our brother Chav. I mean, he's been at my side for a long, long time elk hunting. I've had each one of these guys with me side by side, fighting hell with a water pistol up there on those mountains, them dragging me the whole way up there. Cause I'm telling you, I got one speed and it's slow, but if I can get there, we can make it happen. And I love these guys. They're who I ride the river with. So glad to have you with us, Mr. O'Shea. We represent your brand as well. And I'm that means something to me. I'm a salesman by heart. That's what I do for a living. They pay me to talk, and I talk leg off a wooden Indian. But at the end of the day, we believe in good people and great products, man. Mm-hmm. And I believe in yours. And, so we thank you so much.
I appreciate you guys believing in me. It's awesome.
Yeah, and for our listeners out there, there's something I really want them to hear, though, because this is real critical. And that Travis, man, he's been as excited about this grinder as I have, man. I mean, he texts me and he's just celebrating. He sends me updates and everything like that. It's just way, way cool. And, but one of our first conversations that I had with Travis is, Travis, I want you to understand, we're making a call that's a grinder. You have the Wapiti River calls. However, man, when we talk to our listeners and we tell people, man, if this call, if a Phelps, fits your mouth better because of the size of the frame. If you're more comfortable with a native by Carlton because that tape is like has a whole different feel on top of it, if you like the adjustment of the Primos, there's a lot of calls out there. We use things that we believe in and that we like. But we want people to be successful, whether it's with our grinder, whether it's with his Wapiti River calls. We always want, and this is one reason that me and Travis did this together, because he was not the person that said, I want you exclusively to be Wapiti River. And he could have done that, but that wasn't how he was. This guy goes to seminars and he hands call, and this is what's so cool. He has a bag of calls, all the same ones, and he has everybody grab a diaphragm call out of it. He reaches in, gets one of the new calls, the same one that they're getting, and starts doing his seminar with that. It's nothing that he's broken. It's nothing that he's worked, anything like that. He just does this with his calls. And to me, that's transparent, that's genuine, and, people are going to have different likes and dislikes. That's awesome. Whatever works for you. And all that we do on this show, when we talk to all y'all out there, we are not the experts on, I guarantee you, on every piece of gear, definitely like arrows, bows, and different things, and even strategies and techniques. We have things that we do our way. That doesn't mean it's the only way. And you're going to find out tonight, because it's going to be a whale of a show, because you're going to get a free seminar from Mr. Travis O'Shea tonight. So you're going to hear some of his things. I'm going to share some stuff. The boys are going to share some stuff. We're going to talk about different things that are going to happen. As far as when you're out there, we're going to do some scenarios. We need to start rocking into this, man. Travis, thank you, buddy. Let's get going with this.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. And you said, Joe, that the grinder series call series will be available next Monday, correct?
Correct. The 9th.
May 9th.
The 9th of May.
May 9th.
Yes,
That's
sir.
fantastic.
Yep.
Joe, well, let's get this party started and head over to our ElkBros mailbox. What do you say?
Yeah, because this way Travis can help this out. And just for our people listening out there, the first one's from Stephen Bullard out of Phoenix, Arizona. And Stephen says, first off, guys, love the show. But where's Bonanno been?
Studying for the bar.
You don't need to read the next part.
You
don't need to
our
read the
leader
next.
is missing, LOL.
What? I like this dude. This dude's got it
Bonanno's
wrong.
the chief counsel officer, and we need him to pass the bar, so we leave him alone.
And he says, here's my real question. He says, I have friends that say elk won't rut when it's hot. That's why they're not bugling on the hot days. But from listening to you, I don't think that's the case. So the question is, can hot weather delay the rut and cause elk to breed?
Can I intervene real quick?
Yeah.
He recognizes his question was not real. Because he said, where has Manano been? Our leader is missing out. And then he said, here's the real question. So he did recognize that question wasn't real. All right, I'm just, I rest my case. We can go with the, less important stuff.
Hey, so up there in Canada, man, I'm going to let you have the first shot at this.
Sure. So what I think of that, because we go through the whole gamut. August, it's awfully hot here as well, but then we do get the snowstorms and all that as well. So, I mean, we get hit with all that. I just think when those cows start dripping, those bulls, they can smell it, and they're going to breed whether it's rain, shine, snow, in the mud, in the dry. It don't matter. I mean, and when they're coming in, because those bulls, early season, everybody hears those bulls just firing. Some of the cows are dripping. They can smell it, and they're putting their nose to them. And then once they do come into the full estrus, the bugling, have you noticed, it really quiets right down. That bull that's going to be doing that breeding, he's got that cow penned up, and he's basically doing his thing with her. Yeah. And then, I just think, honestly, once they start dripping, it could be August 20th, August 25th, it could be September 20th.
Yep.
They have no way of knowing when they're actually going to come into estrus. It just, each one has their timeline and it happens. So they're going to breed no matter what.
I think we're all aligned with that answer, Joe. I mean, that's kind of what we've been communicating all along, right?
I've hunted them in my t-shirt, and I've hunted them in 4 inches of snow in the rut. So,
Yeah.
and wished I could take more than my t-shirt off, but
Yeah.
blind everybody in the world.
No, we're glad you don't, bro. We're glad you don't. But elk are going to do elk things no matter what, man.
That's right.
Yeah.
If that cow comes in estrus, then those bulls are going to breed. And what people don't realize is the reason all of that screaming is going on is because those satellite bulls are vying for their opportunity. Because that bull can only breed that cow, and then he's got to move off, and another bull is going to come in and breed that cow.
Yeah.
You know.
Now I will say, I think the hot weather does make the elk be more active in times
Cooler.
where it's real early in the morning or real late in the evening, right? I do think that'll make them more active where you can get to them a little easier in those times. I think they'll stay down later and move up earlier, you know, depending on where you're at, right? So I think that can affect how you get on them, whether they're going to rut or not, ain't got nothing to do with it. They coming, right? As soon as they smell them, like Travis said, when they start dripping, they're going to be on them, you know. But again, where their movements normally not in Canada, because you don't have as much up and down as where we hunt, but they move up and down here with the thermals, and also in that higher country, it's got more timber, so it's cooler all the time, and they won't get out of that timber until later when it's real hot like that, because that they want to stay up there out of the bugs, and it's 25 degrees cooler up there, RC.
That's right.
And Gilbert, what I try to tell people is those elk are no different than you are.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right.
if it's hot, you don't want to be standing out in the sun.
No.
You're going to get into the trees, man, and they're the same way. They're going to get into the trees. So the reason a lot of times people aren't hearing them is when you have bulls in the early morning and stuff, and they're out in the open, that stuff echoes out. Once they get into those trees and they get over those ridges, those sounds start disappearing, man. They get muffled and stuff like that. So
especially if you get some wind,
yeah,
you know, you can be real close to them, and wind's blowing hard, and you can't hardly hear them. You know, I remember when Jeremy Christopherson killed his bull. I mean, we were 135 yards from them, wind blowing 45 miles an hour out of the north, and we never heard those bulls till we actually saw them popped out of some jack pines, and there they were. They were out there fighting and carrying on. There's 45 head of elk there, but we never heard those bulls until we got inside 100 yards of them, you know, and they were going off like crazy, fighting like you wouldn't believe, and bugling. But, you know, with that wind, and they were in a big spot too, in the back of a pocket, in a big area, and I mean, we weren't hearing them because of the wind, you know. And all of that makes terrain, wind, all of that makes a difference in whether you're hearing them or not. The day I killed that bull that's right here on the wall, Joe and I, we'd went about 5 miles and just couldn't get on them. We hear them every now and then, and we went over one ridge, piled over that ridge, and it was on like Donkey Kong. I mean, bulls blowing up everywhere. We're like, man, we were just up a ridge over and we weren't hearing anything, nothing. We piled off that ridge down into another one, and it was absolutely bulls going nuts, and there was some hot cows, you know. So you got to be, that hot weather is going to make you try to hunt the elk a little different because of the way they move. You know,
and there's going to be a lot of variables too, man. And just remember that the rut is not an overall phenomenon. It happens in the areas where cows come in heat, man. And it's going to, a lot of things on how active those bulls are and how aggressive and how much they sound off is going to depend on how many bulls there are per cows. They're going to depend on age class. There's going to be a lot of reasons for how much they sound off. So that's some of that.
And scientifically, Joe, it's the equinox that draws them closer to to them going into heat, right?
Right.
Going
But
into
yeah,
estrus.
but
The change
there's
in
going
the
to be some
day,
that come
the
in
length of the
earlier,
day.
different age groups of those cows, and there's different reasons of,
Yeah.
whether or not they've had good feed, whether or not they've had, it's been a dry year. A lot of those, like in deer, we have deer in this area that they
Variables.
won't drop fawns, man, when it's a drought. So, there's natural things that are in these animal systems to be able to do that. So, a great question though, Stephen, man. I think we've cleared that one up. Chav, why don't you take Aaron's?
Okay, this question comes from Aaron Turner from Detroit, Michigan. And he is asking, I'm a first-time elk hunter and working on my, is that gear?
That should be gear, yeah.
Yeah, gear needs. My question is about coolers to hold an elk on a hunt. I have friends that say I need a Yeti 250 for a whole elk, but that is a high cost item for my budget. Do I really need something that big? Are there other alternatives? How can I bring home an elk without breaking the bank? Thanks for any help.
So the size is needed. The brand is not.
Right. Yeah, you want a 150 quart cooler, something that size. I mean, I can just about put one bull, a good sized bull, in a 150 and a 120. So you need about 270 quarts to put a boned out, big, mature bull.
Deboned.
And then you need another cooler for your cape. Yeah, if you're going to cape him and stuff like that, you need another cooler for you. I bring 4 coolers for me that are in the 120 to 150 quart size. Invariably, somebody might need another cooler or whatever. I have them available, so I bring them. And mine are igloos. So I've had igloos for a long time.
Yeah.
I just keep replacing the parts on them. And I have one Arctic roto molded, for keeping ice. And then eventually I put most of my meat in that Arctic.
Doesn't have to be a jetty, I guess that's the answer.
And let me tell you something about a 250, man. Even getting to a 160, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Heavy.
that 250 is 70 pounds on its own, man. I mean, that's not anything in it. And you start throwing ice and you put some meat in it. If you're by
300
yourself,
pounds of meat in it,
you better not plan on getting it out of the truck, number one. And we like to keep our coolers under something shaded. And I mean, you'll rip a groin, man, trying to get that thing out.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
they're fantastic for ice. If you charge that cooler right and keep it cracked where it drains the water off, that ice will stay a long time. But like Joe said, we push all our coolers up under some firs or whatever just to keep it in the shade. We'll build us a little lean-to that keeps all our coolers in the shade to try and cut down on that ice melting. But yeah, you're gonna need about 270 quarts on a big bull, even deboned, man. That's a lot of meat.
I have deboned one and put it in my 160, and I didn't purchase that 160 Yeti. That was a gift to me, and I treasure it, man, because that's a high. I think that's like a $700 cooler right now. You talk that 250, I think you're talking $1,000 for that, right?
I've got 150 quart Arctic, and I couldn't put that whole bull last year. I killed in Colorado.
Oh, really?
So I mean, no, not with the amount of ice that I wanted on him.
Right.
So I had to use my other 120 to finish it off. So I could have put. I probably didn't need 120. Probably needed another 70 quarts.
Yeah, that's what I agree on that.
That's why I said.
And I like to do it. I always like to have one that I just have filled with ice and just let it stay iced down and until we kill an animal, and then we work it that way. What about you, Travis?
We kind of like to have a little libation too, so we need ice.
What do you have, Travis?
Yeah, well, we're pretty lucky up here. Where I hunt. Honestly, it's cooler, but you still got to be quick getting that meat out. But we're pretty close to all the towns and cities around here where I hunt that we can get it to a meat locker like that day.
Okay.
You got 2 or 3 buddies helping you pack stuff out on your pack frames and get it to the truck and just get it to the locker right away.
I've seen some people do that too, where they actually take some tarps, put their quarters on top of the tarps in the back of the truck and create their own little mini cooler, just using tarps, on that with ice. So there's different things that you can do. But yeah, dude, you don't need a Yeti 250, and there's even some of those out there. Those Arctics are out there. There's different ones. Coleman has some great ones, that are out there for less. And shop around. There's different times of year when things get. Yeah. Don't go to the big name stores because you'll never get a deal on one. Man.
Yeah. No. Shoot, you can get some good. Like I said, I've got a couple of Igloos that are 5-day coolers that are really good, man.
Yep.
The big thing with them is, their parts, and they're readily accessible. You're going to bust some hinges and this, that, and other. But, I usually replace all my hinges on my Igloos with leather, and then you don't ever have that problem. They last 5 or 6 years on that leather. And, making a good seal, that's a really good thing with your cooler. And then, if you manage where you put it, I remember 2 years ago, Joe, we were trying not to freeze everything because it was 17 degrees and snow like crazy. We were using snow, putting it in the cooler, so trying to not have things freeze,
That's where we're lucky. We can use a lot of the snow as well. And and there's actually there's a new cooler on the market that's called a White Rock, which some of my buddies have actually. And like, on the Yetis, the inside, you lose a lot of that space-wise because it's so thick.
Right.
On their coolers, I noticed that inside portion is drastically different. The outside of the cooler is a little bit bigger, but the inside is actually that full 150, 160 quart that you're talking.
You're right.
So I have noticed they've gone to that one, and I honestly wouldn't know what the prices are because I don't have one, but they're probably going to be quite a bit cheaper than what the Yeti would be for sure.
Travis, wouldn't any cooler, I mean, if they say 160 quart, the inside has to be able to handle 160, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Possibly, yeah. I'm not sure on that, honestly.
Yeah.
It could be.
You could do 2 125s and have enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even 2 100s, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, we've done it that way, and we've always done it just with Igloos. I mean, we find them for $80 a piece on sale, and you don't have to worry about stuff like that. And RC, you showed me years ago, man, the leather trick on the backside of that. So
Yeah, you bet. Works good.
Well, guys, you know what time it is. It's time for the ElkBros shout out. If you're new to our show, this is just shout out to a few cities topping our charts this week, Joe.
Yep. And first, we're going to thank those folks giving us those incredible reviews on Apple Podcasts. Trayson Smith from Preston, Idaho says that we have amazing content and entertainment. I like Trayson, man. I don't know about the amazing content, but I think we can be entertaining a little bit. Colby Shaw, Morehead City, North Carolina. Colby sent in because Colby said we gave a shout out to a town that was just down the road from him. I think it was Hubert, North Carolina last time.
Okay.
So he said that's just right down the road. And Saxon, I hope you say your last name right. It's either Kunsis or Kunkis. I'm not sure. I apologize. My last name is either Gilia, Giglia, Googlia, whatever. So it's Saxon's out of Arizona. He really sent in a cool review, and it was really, really nice, some of the things that he said. But he also said that that our first-time hunter guests and stories were some of the best things that he's heard on any podcast. So he really liked when we brought first-time hunters in that had been hunting out there, because he felt like he learned a lot from people that were learning for the first time out. So it's kind of like when we have Manano, here, it's like, it's
waiting on Manano.
So Travis, on the shout outs, man, why don't you start us out?
Yeah, so everybody knows I'm from Grand Prairie, Alberta. So we are known here for a little bit of dinosaur finds, stuff like that. Grand Prairie is also called the Trumpeter Swan City, because back in the day when it was just getting started, they seen a couple trumpeter swans out there, so they were like, hey, let's call it the Swan City. So that's kind of how the name came about. And I'll stay on the boxing side of it. Back in the 80s, we had a local boy. He was a football player on the Grand Prairie football team. He went on to win in 1984. he went on to win the silver medal in the Olympics, fighting for Canada. And if you guys follow boxing at all, in that same era, that was the big Mike Tyson era.
Mm-hmm.
So Willie DeWitt, fellow that got the second, he actually went and he fought Bert Cooper, which you've heard of Bert Cooper.
Yes.
He was the first person to ever knock down Evander Holyfield.
Right.
Evander went on to win that fight, as you probably know, Gilbert, but that shows the caliber that Willie DeWitt was, right from my hometown of Grand Prairie. So pretty dang impressive. And I mean, back then our population was probably in the 80s. I'm guessing it was probably 28 to 30,000. Now we're up to about 67,000. So,
oh, wow. Growing metropolis.
Did that boy have to fight his way through school? How did he get to be so?
Well, rumor has it,
they play hockey.
They fight in hockey all the time.
Oh,
but rumor has it he was just he was doing, I believe, a book report for school, because he was in high school at this time when he was on the football team. And then from the book report or essay he had to do, he went on to start training and then became this awesome fighter. It just happened out of the blue. I don't think he even planned on it, and it just happened, right? So
you know the mad Canadian Steve Tucker that hunts with us periodically and has hunted with us. RC's been with him, Joe's been with him. The mad Canadian, man, when he first started working for Marathon, he would come in and I would call on them. I was a salesman every one of my accounts, and I'd walk in there and his eyes be all black and blue, nose swole up, big knots on his head. And I'm like, and he's a big lad, dude. I mean, he's a big guy, 6'3", probably 205 now, but back then he was probably pushing 285. I mean, he's a big dude. And I'm like, man, what was that Mack truck that ran into you? He goes, oh, you ought to see that other song. Well, he's like, man, he goes, I play hockey when I leave work, and man, those guys tune me up. I said, well, because you're such a nice guy and you don't run your mouth and all that, I'm sure. He goes, yeah. He goes, man, I'm telling you, in hockey, we like to throw down, I'm from Canada, we like to fight. Tucker's a maniac, bro. And now he's a Iron Man, bro. Crazy guy.
Awesome, man.
Love the dude to death. Good person.
Yeah, and now Willie DeWitt, he's since gone on from his boxing career. I believe he's a lawyer or a judge in Calgary, Alberta now.
Good for him.
Yeah, so I mean,
handle that courtroom.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, this week's #1 top listening city is snuggled in Colorado's Vail Valley in the heart of the Rocky Mountains, a small town near the famous ski resort in the town of Vail. Besides great skiing in the winter, it offers superb fly fishing, horseback riding, and hiking throughout the valley and surrounding hills. This quaint town is located at the confluence of Lake Creek and Eagle River. And for our elk grinders, 82% of this city's county is National Forest or BLM land. And this is in Edwards, Colorado.
Edwards, Colorado.
Cool.
Edwards, Colorado.
Yep.
Always good to have our brothers from Colorado showing up, Joe.
One thing I loved about Colorado, when they talk about national forests and public land, is you go to Colorado and you get in a national forest, you can camp any doggone where you want. I mean, you just pull off the road and camp, man.
Right there.
Yep, right there.
And they
awesome.
do.
Yeah,
and they do. And they do.
Absolutely.
For sure. They bring buses. They bring Winnebagos. They bring, you name it. I saw a Prevost motor coach up a
and Taj Mahals.
And Taj Mahal.
Taj Mahals.
They dang sure do.
Fancy horse trailers.
Yes, sir. I ain't knocking that. That's for sure. Joe, this next city is known as the tournament capital of Canada. This city hosts more than 100 tournaments each year at world-class sports facilities. These facilities include the Tournament Capital Center, Kamloops Bike Ranch, and Tournament Capital Ranch. It has the highest number of golf courses per capita in Canada. The city is located in and around rolling grasslands, sandstone slot canyons, hoodoos, and lots of sagebrush. It's also home to award-winning wineries in the Thompson Valley in Kamloops, British Columbia, Canada.
Kamloops.
Kamloops.
So what is a hoodoo, Travis?
So up on the sides of the hills where the water has eroded,
Uh-huh.
it basically makes like stalactite type things, I guess, on the side of the hill. They're just called the hoodoos. It's all eroded soil and it left the rock and stuff behind.
Oh man.
Huh.
Yeah, they're pretty cool to see,
it's-
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that tent city outside of Santa Fe.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Right.
tent rocks, like tent rocks
Yeah.
out there, huh?
Mhm.
Right. Tent Rock, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
This next top listening city is the gateway to many natural and man-made attractions for outdoor enthusiasts. Among the many attractions on the Appalachian Range include the Courthouse Vanaleska Memorial, the Chenoa River, the Tail of the Dragon Scenic Drive, and Fontana Dam, the highest dam east of the Rockies, the Charahola Skyway, and the Joyce Kilmer Forest. A favorite place to eat in this area is T-Dub's Barbecue Shack, which is literally a shack with great food. And that's in Robbinsville, North Carolina. Robbinsville in the house.
Carolina's showing up again,
Right.
man.
Yeah.
Sweet. East Coast brothers.
Yep. North Carolina, we get a lot of them here lately.
The location of this town is the end of the infamous Trail of Tears, relocation of the Muskogee Indian tribe. Is that right?
Yep.
Muskogee.
Indian tribe.
Muskogee Indian tribe from Alabama in the 1800s. It is also the home of award winner Rolf Blaine, who wrote more than 700 songs for movies and Broadway and directed the Disney World Christmas Chorus. This town is also home to Oklahoma Joe's and owner Joe Davidson, who holds the title of World Champion Barbecue Pitmaster, the best barbecue chef in the world.
Oh,
Broken Arrow, Oklahoma.
Broken Arrow.
Broken Arrow, right outside of Tulsa.
That's something I don't do. I don't do broken arrows, bro.
Broken Arrow is one of the coolest little towns, man. It's right outside of Tulsa. We play ball twice a year in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma.
So have you ever been to Oklahoma Joe's?
Absolutely. Been to
Really?
Oklahoma Joe's a bunch. You bet.
Yeah.
Yep, they got one there in Stillwater and all over.
Are you scheduled to go to any of those places anytime soon, dude?
Yeah, I'll be there June 8th through 12th and June 28th through 26th through
Yeah, that's the exact weekends we're at Mountain Archery Fest, right?
I know.
remember that.
I know.
So,
know,
dude, you need to package up some of that barbecue and hook me and Chav up, man.
And ship it over there to you, brother.
Mhm.
We'll
yeah.
be with RC, so we can all three enjoy that, man. Right, RC?
That's right.
It won't make it, Joe. You know I'm gonna eat it. If I got to tote it and smell it, it ain't making it all the way.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, so quick English lesson for the foreigner here. So choir and chorus.
A choir and chorus can be the same thing, basically.
Yeah, but one's got an eye in it. Chorus don't have no eye in it, Joe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
There's your English lesson, boys. And I got
yeah,
to teach geography and
Yes.
English. And nobody knows what a circle is, and nobody knows how to spell around here.
You always hear that you're in a church choir, but you're in a school chorus.
Yeah.
I don't have any idea why, but maybe the Lord thinks more of.
Choir.
I got lots of questions for him when I get there, Joe.
All right.
They say they'll all be answered, so I'm glad of that. Joe, the next city is dubbed the cowboy capital of the world, and I bet Mr. R.C. Knox would have maybe a little stipulation with that. But this is deemed the cowboy capital of the world, and also the dairy capital of Texas. Our next top listening city is the home of the Tarleton State University with a student population of 14,000 and fields a rodeo team that has won 7 national championships.
7.
Wow.
7 national championships. It was originally part of the Comanche Empire and the local Caddo tribe. Among the local celebrities are Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Kevin Kolb and kings of the Cowboys, Mr. Ty Murray and pop singer Jewel, in none other than where Logan's going to go to college here in just a few months, in Stephenville, Texas.
Stephenville.
Hey, yeah.
All right, man.
Stephenville, Texas, man.
Oh, you're shipping him out, huh?
Well, I mean, you know, that's looks like where he's going to go to engineering school. So yeah, he's still got a few months here, but yep. I mean, they got a real good fishing team there, Joe, and you know the boys eat up with that fishing just like somebody else I knew.
Yes, he is.
So he that's what he wants to do. He wants to go fish and, you know, study some engineering. You know, his hero is Luis Gonzalez. So Luis has got him lined out.
He can do way better than that, bro.
Poor dude.
All right, boys, here we go, man. Main content tonight. And hey, is everybody out there? You ready for an elk calling seminar? Because what we're about to do right now is this whole content is going to be on elk calling and season strategies here. And so you're the one up on the, you know, we're all going to contribute to this here. So don't feel like you have to do everything for us out here, brother. But we really like to, I mean, give you a chance to shine. You do this all the time up north up there. In fact, you were just at the BC outdoor show just recently, doing seminars up there. And so this will probably be the cheapest seminar these guys will ever get of a Travis O'Shea seminar, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's right.
So let's get started with it. And so, Travis, I'm just gonna get the ball rolling. And a lot of people, when they get out there or when they talk to people that do calling, they ask them things like, what are first of all, are you and they always do this, are you a cow oriented, you know, a cow call oriented, or are you bull call oriented? Or does that change? Do you have, you know, basically what is your personal strategy with that?
Well, me, I roll with the punches, whatever the situation dictates. But for the most part, honestly, I'm a bugler. Like I don't know if I just love hearing myself bugle or what it is, but I love bugling, and not just location bugles, like advertising bugles, low note bugles, chuckles, moans and groans. Like the calling you hear at the Worlds, those are big fancy calls. But when you're actually out in the bush, I'm using like elk tone type calls.
So grab a hold of that diaphragm, because when you say these, we're going to let people understand what that means. So
can you show them the difference? But can you show them the difference between what you would use in real hunting scenario versus a world calling championship scenario?
Yeah. So in a world championship call, you'd use the big fancy lip balls and all that stuff, which we do when we're out hunting a little bit, but not a whole lot. Mostly you just give them like a basic advertising bugle or 1 or 2 note location bugle. For those that don't know, location bugle and an advertising bugle, they're pretty much the same. Right. Just the advertising bugle's a little bit shorter, and you got more growl on the end. So
let's hear what these are like.
I'll show a little location first.
Okay.
And mind y'all, he's using the ElkBros grinder.
Yeah. So that's just a location bugle. Just go up, hit 1 or 2 notes. It don't really matter. And then the advertising bugle, at the end, you can either throw your voice in or you can throw a little bit of lip ball in. I like to just use my voice because we can all do that easily. It just, yeah, exactly. So you hear the difference there, eh?
Oh, absolutely.
Advertising quite a bit shorter than the location bugle. Then if you want to do the lip ball, that's where you're sputtering your lips.
Before you do that, Trav, what is the difference in the elk world between that?
Yeah. What are you advertising?
Yes.
Yeah. Basically, if you're advertising calling, you're calling basically to all the cows. You're trying to bring all the cows. He'll be going, if you're advertising, I'm moving along a ridge somewhere. Usually I have point A, point B, and I'll go back and forth like 50, 60 yards. And I'll bugle down off the hill into the bowl this side, then I'll bugle down off the hill on this side. And
so the bull is basically saying, hey, I'm a bull, I'm right here, come to me.
Yeah, because if you can, where we are, if you can call the cows over, the bulls are going to be like the puppy dog, just following along, right?
Absolutely.
They're wagging their tail. They're just following the cows.
So how is that different from the message of a location bugle?
So location bugle, you're just basically reaching out there, testing the waters to see if there's any other elk that might be out there.
Yeah.
So what I call it, location bugle, is just basically saying, hey guys, I'm Trav. Is there anybody out there? And basically that's what I think a location is. And if there is a bull out there, he's going to say, hey Trav, I'm over here, with his location bugle back.
Yeah.
So,
and if he chuckles, that's an invitation. Come on over here, boy.
absolutely. Absolutely. If you, any chuckling is good. That's what you want. He's inviting you right over.
What people need to understand is that that location bugle, when bulls respond back, it's because they want not only for that other bull that they know there, but if there are cows in between them, it's like, it's almost a sense of an advertising. It's like, yeah, I'm here too, you know, and they are social critters.
Hey, honey.
Yeah. And actually,
hey, girlfriend, y'all don't go nowhere yet.
When a bull sounds off and they respond back, it's because they understand there's a possibility of other elk being there and they want to head towards those other elk. So they do the same thing we do. We're trying to get them to sound off just so they can go that way, right?
Yeah.
And when you get that advertising bugle, you can hear more of that voice in there because now they're demonstrating a little bit to those cows that you know, hey, I'm a pretty decent bull over here. Come on, right? Okay.
That's right. Yeah, because the cows are the ones that choose who they're going to breed with in the ultimate end. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now,
so what in that scenario, what would it look like when you're at a elk calling championship instead of those basic bugles like you did just then? What would it look like?
So there you'd probably use more of a fancier type a lip ball or
3-tone. More commercial.
Yeah, you'd be more commercial. And
gotcha.
I mean, you can use that stuff out in the bush too, but honestly, because a lot of our bulls, the bulls in our range are probably 4.5 to 6 years old that get shot most of the part. So that's going to be 3 points to 5, small 6 point, stuff like that. You start screaming a big lip ball challenge bugle or roundup bugle at them like that, they want none of that. They're going the other way. You can have the girls. I'm out of here. You know,
I took that ass whooping before. I ain't taking it again.
Yeah. When you call those bulls and you look at their rear end and they got their hair is all splayed everywhere, right? Because they've been getting it, man.
And you talked about some other bull sounds.
Yeah, basically, so the sounds I really like to go to are the low note type bugles and the moans and groans.
That's money.
That type of stuff, right?
That's straight pleading, man. Chuckling.
Yeah,
straight.
And I want people to understand that you hear that tone and that growl in there. It's just Travis, just with that doing that, right?
Yeah.
It has.
That's that bull pleading, though, man. That's when he's really emotional, you know.
Bringing that emotion in.
Yeah.
When you're just, you have that sound. All you gotta do is add.
Yeah.
You just add that growl to it. It's just that voice adding to it is all it is.
And what people need to realize is there's no right or wrong way. Just let the call roll and just kind of be smooth with it. You know, put your emotion into it. Use your body, use your diaphragm, just get into it. And the more emotion you can put into your calling by throwing your voice and stuff, the more realistic that stuff sounds.
The more it translates to the call.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like you hear someone do it right and you got goosebumps and the hair on your arms standing up and you're like, dude, like you just did that? Like, where did that come from? So
Yeah, that happens to Joe every time I call.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. Man. Absolutely.
yeah. I sense that.
But at the same time, people are, and I want our audience to understand, you're listening to Travis, again, a world-class caller. You do not have to be a world-class caller to call in elk, man. In fact, we say it all the time. Some of the worst calls I've ever heard in my life were from elk, right?
Mhm.
So it's really just
Absolutely.
knowing what and when and whatever you're pushing that, getting that button push with, you want to use that. So we talked about, you said that you're more, you like to bugle, you're bugle oriented, but
Yeah.
there's different variables that happen, like early season,
Yep.
transition, later season. So what are some of the variables that you come across that determine your call selection and strategy?
So basically, what I can say to that, the very first day I go out, August 25th, that's the opener of our archery season.
Mhm.
I'll hunt an area that I've scouted. I mean, I know there's elk there. You can smell them. You walk in on the game trails, you're stepping in the green, fresh poop. You know what I mean? Like it's
Absolutely.
green. Like they're eating all the clover. You know it's fresh. I mean, if you picked it up, it would be warm still. So we know there's elk there. That's the one time where I actually use cow calls. I'll literally slip into my little area, and because I've scouted it, I kind of know where the elk are going to be at that time. But you're still got to go in. You got to search the area still. So that's where I'll get in. I'll hike in, and then I'll be standing literally right on the game trail. If you're with a buddy or whatever, make sure he's not shuffling his pack around and stuff like that, making noise. Just let out one nice, crisp little cow mew. Just a simple little cow mew, just like that. And basically just wait. If there's a bull there, he's gonna bugle back because he's sensing, okay, he heard a cow, he's gonna bugle. And from there on, that's where I play the little bit of a waiting game. I'll literally wait 5, 6, 7 minutes before I say anything else back to him. The reason I want to do that, the second time you give that cow mew, the second time you do that, now you know, has that bull came towards you? Is he still in the same spot where he bugled from? Or is he moving away, going to like a bedding area or something like that, or going to get water before he goes to bed down? So by waiting that 5 minutes, you've already figured out the pattern of that bull and what he's doing. You know, if he's coming, man, you better start setting up right away. And you'll hear branches and stuff crackling because they're not quiet. He's coming in. You got to realize this first day, he's the dumbest that those elk will ever be in the whole season. So make sure you're out there the first day. I hear guys say, oh, I'm going to miss the first week no matter what. They don't talk. They don't do anything. Man, I'm telling you, they're missing out big time. Like the last 2, 3 years, 4 years, we've had an elk down by 7:30 a.m. on the first opening morning. It's gold, man. Just you got to go out there, just throw out a couple cow sounds and pay attention to what's going on, because that's where most guys fail. They hear the bugle and they start going to him right away. I mean, you got to just be patient. Is he coming to you? Is he going away? Is he staying there? Well, if he's staying there, he's probably got some cows.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, and especially if he's chuckling too, he's chuckling to those cows to keep his cows there. So you know right away.
He tells
that's right.
to come on.
So there's other things I've seen during that time though, Travis, that sometimes they don't come to you not because they're with cows, but they're bachelored up with 5 other bulls at the same time as well. So,
and then we've seen all 5 of them come.
Yeah.
You know,
you get the right reason.
Bag of hammers.
And now the other thing too is bulls also respond to that cow mew that early in the season with a mew. I've had that happen as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bull mew.
Yeah.
When we called all them 5 bulls in, Joe, they were all bull mewing as they were running up. You know, they were like, where in the heck's that cow? He done heard Joe. You know, we kind of put on a little scenario there, and those bulls come running in like I said, like a bunch of dumb animals, man.
Well,
And they're looking for us all.
Yep.
And but they were all bull mute.
2018, it was September 2nd. It was the second day of the hunt, and Chav and I had 2 bulls down on the ground the first day of our hunt by 10 o'clock. 2 bulls archery season on the ground by 10 o'clock at the beginning.
That's insane.
It was unbelievable. It was the most crazy thing ever. But
yeah.
And what can
the
happen?
First day I hunted with, go ahead, Joe.
What happened with that is we actually had a bull that decided to start speaking up, and things escalated from there. We gave him what he wanted, but I've had a bull that I killed at, I don't know, 12 yards that never bugled at all and came in with 3 other bulls, and all you could hear them doing was bull mews as they came in. So, you can get, and the other response you can get is they can say nothing at all and just rake trees and come into you at the same time as well. So there's all kinds of responses that early that are not bugles necessarily. Right?
Yeah. One thing I have seen that first opening morning, if a bull does bugle back, right away it's telling me he's got cows. And the reason being, I feel like he's almost bragging, saying, I got the girls, you don't got the girls. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm thinking. If he comes in silent, that's a bull that doesn't have cows.
Right.
And that's when you'll hear the sticks break. And then you be ready, man, because he's coming still, because he heard that cow sound. He wants that girl, no matter what.
So
that's what they're doing, man. They're
on
breeding.
that topic, Mr. Travis, so here's a question. You mentioned you like to bugle, right? But on that note, some people may associate bugle with aggressiveness, and we talk about being aggressive in the calling, and not necessarily meaning that we're, calling in an aggressive manner. Right. So the question to you would be is like, so lover versus a fighter, even though you like to bugle, what do you prefer?
Well, I always believe lover then fighter, because they start every bull starts off really low, and then they build up and they progress and they progress. Very rare you're going to have that bull that's just right in your face. I mean, it does happen once or twice a season, don't get me wrong. But for the most part, you got to ramp those bulls up, and it's just a progression, and it's him moving to you and you moving to him. And then, you hear guys say it all the time, and guys say, well, you just mimic the bull, what he's doing, and you can follow his emotion as he's ramping himself up. So that's kind of how I go with it.
Have you been listening to the ElkBros for the last 2 years? Is that
Travis, can you show us a bugle that doesn't have emotion in it, a plain Jane bugle, and then one that's got emotion in it? So a lot of those bulls, when they do call back to you, and they do have cows, they'll have some emotion in that, right? Like, okay, hey bud, I hear you out there, especially if they're answering a bugle. I hear you out there, but don't come over here, right? I mean, we're going to draw a line in the sand, and if you do, you can see that escalation, right? But there's definitely a bugle that doesn't have any emotion in it, right? So I think our listeners would benefit in understanding what you mean by emotion in it, right?
Yeah, and basically it's all in how you finish that call. If you just hit 1 or 2 notes and you don't get real crazy with it, just finish it off nice. Just almost think like a spike or a 3-point or a little dink pull, basically, and and that's honestly the least amount of motion that you can probably have, and that's going to be honestly the easiest call for a beginner to learn on a reed as well too, right? Because there's nothing to it. You're just putting air across the diaphragm and letting the reed do all the work. Because the minute you start talking, okay, well, throw your voice in and throw a lip ball in, most guys are just, it's way over their head already. They don't even realize they can I mean, it changes the whole game. just by doing that little bit of it changes the whole bugle.
Well, and his attitude's changed too when you hear that inflection. It no longer is he just not bothered by your presence, but now he is bothered by your presence.
Well, you're giving it more maturity as well.
Yeah, exactly. And now if you've broken a branch or if you've rigged a tree or something, well, you're just up in that game just that much more again. Yep.
So does your strategy change, Travis, through the season, or does it stay the same?
It pretty much stays the same. I will say, like aside from the first day when I'm going in and starting with just a couple cow calls, that's the basic, my easiest strategy, where probably I got a buddy with me the first opening morning and I really want to get him on a bull or something. That's what I'll go in and do. Myself, I do a lot of solo hunting. So while I'm hunting all through my whole life, while I'm hunting during the hunting season, I'm also scouting. And my favorite thing to look for is those solitary bedrooms. You know how the bulls, they're all in their bachelor groups all summer long, right? But then they split up. You know, they start rubbing their velvet, they split up. Those bigger bulls, they go into their little solitary bedroom, I call it. Exactly. And so that's when I'm walking all those game trails. I'm literally walking all the trails. I'm looking for every single rub and everything like that. Once you find that little area where it's every tree in that whole vicinity will be just thrashed. And I'm talking it's
found the hole.
It's a 30 or 40, 50 yard little circle. That's his bedroom. So when I start early season hunting, that's the first thing my mind goes to, other than the first day cow calling with some buddies, getting them a bull. Once I start out on my own, my mind is going, okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 different solitary bedrooms that I want to hit, and I'll hit one every morning. And I do that because, like I said before, they're the dumbest they're ever going to be. So you put on your little ninja suit and you sneak in down those little game trails and just be ever so quiet. You get in there literally, like, you don't have to get very close to it. Like, I stay back about 80 to 100 yards, honestly. And then I'll go in and I'll hit them with that little low note bugle. I'll throw one of those at him, and then I'll wait about 30 seconds to a minute, and then I'll go in with a little chuckle.
Grinders tuning in, thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Podcast. Our goal is to share our knowledge and help you flatten that learning curve so that you too can have some of the very same incredible experiences that have given all of us here at ElkBros a lifetime of memories. If you like what you hear or see, you can get all of this information plus so much more from our Base Camp Elk Hunting Training Camp, the first in a series of online courses from our Blue Collar Elk Academy. Our Base Camp Training Camp allows me to use my coaching style and share almost 40 years of elk hunting experiences successfully hunting elk on public lands, as well as over 20 years guiding hunters of all ages and experience levels. This course will be like nothing you have ever experienced in concept and structure, using success-based coaching techniques that will elevate your confidence and skill sets. Our camp will prepare you specifically from that final moment most in your control, those final minutes or seconds the elk is in front of you, backwards through each step and level, allowing you to see, visualize, understand, and relate every coaching point to what lies ahead, the next step, the next thought process, the next success. Because y'all, you've already been there. You know what it looks like. By tapping my 30 years of teaching and coaching experience, our camps are developed considering multiple learning modes with text, visuals, audio, as well as video. And Base Camp will benefit those new to elk hunting all the way to the 10 to 15 year vet. So if you are looking for that one thing to help you fill that tag this year, invest in the most important piece of equipment there is, you and your elk hunting knowledge. You can find the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Academy and the Base Camp Training Camp at ElkBros.com. That's ElkBros.com. Keep dreaming of the screaming, believing and achieving, and most of all, keep grinding.
And that's literally all you have to do. Now, just sit and wait, because that bull, he's going to come search you out, because he doesn't want you. Yeah, you've
It's
invited
a
him.
territory thing at that point.
That's right.
You invited him.
Yep, yep. He doesn't want you near his bedroom. And like Gilbert's saying, you just invited him with that chuckle. You're saying, "Come on over, big boy. Let's see who you are." And it honestly, it works out awesome. I'm pretty lucky because I do scout and I have my bedrooms all picked out. And I'm telling you, once you found those bedrooms, that's a bedroom for a different bull every year. So say you've killed that bull, another bull is going to take over that bedroom. It's
There's a reason that they're there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they have water, they got food, they got all the trees in the world that they want to just destroy and get that velvet off, and they're filling their oats, man. They want to do some stuff.
So at what time of year do they disappear out of those, Trav?
Usually it's about the first week that I'm hunting those, and then they've already started to meander around and get into their advertising type stuff, and they're actually got 2 or 3 cows with them at that point already. So honestly, I say they're probably only in that little bedroom for 3, 4, 5 days, and then once they really start feeling it, they're vacating that little bedroom,
Traveling,
and they're going looking for the ladies, and they know where the ladies are, because you know they keep tabs on them. They smell them. Yeah.
So let's talk about then transition phase. So when I say that rut transition phase, I'm talking about exactly what you're talking about. And you'll see it early on where the young bulls will pick up the cows first, and then you end up with those big bulls because it ain't their first rodeo. So they're off in the wings, man. They're just shadowing out there. They're not expending any energy. They're just letting these young guys gather up the cows, right? How are you approaching that part of the season?
So as I progress from hunting those bedroom bulls, I'm pretty much going right into like the advertising type scenarios, the sequences. And how I do it, we have the Saddle Hills here. It's kind of a mountain range that we hunt, and it's literally about 20 minutes to half an hour north of my house. And this range is, I believe it's like 7 or 8 miles wide, but then it goes all the way into the BC border, into the Rocky Mountains. So it's probably 80 to 100 kilometers long, and that's all, we call it crown land. Here it's public land. Basically, anybody can hunt there, but it's all controlled by oil lease roads and logging is what it all is. So you have access literally to, I wouldn't, not the whole thing, but there's roads that crisscross, and we have cut lines like crazy everywhere. So how we kind of get in to do the advertising stuff, we'll get up on top of the hill, and first thing in the morning, we still have to worry about the thermals and all that stuff. For those that don't know, wind direction is east and west usually. Thermals is up and down like a hot air balloon. So first thing in the morning, you got to really be careful, because your cold air is going down the mountainside. So you got to be super careful. And how I like to do it, I don't start right at the top of the ridge. I'll drop down to that second ridge right below. Now you're kind of secluded. You're in that little bowl right below the top, and I'll literally set up there for the first hour and a half. And what I'll do is I'll just really start. You guys are familiar with fishing, so I'll fish the water that's right out in front of me first. Right. And that's how I do it. And I always start off with just a really light little chuckle, because you guys know it. If you do a chuckle, you're telling that bull to come up. Yeah. So that's all I do. I'm just literally fishing that water, hunting the bush right in front of me, you know?
And that's
like
interesting because that's such a subtle chuckle the way you did it, right? I mean, you know, when I'm terrible at it, you know, and all these guys can tell you, they all laugh. I remember Joe telling me when I was trying to chuckle, Joe was like,
don't. But the way you did it was just subtle. And yeah, it sounds so natural. So sometimes and this is kind of cliche, but less is more, right? And I think you're just a fine
100.
example of just that.
Yeah. So no one's probably taught you the proper way to do a chuckle. So the chuckle it's a 2-part call. So it's a yeah on your reed going out, and then it's your voice sucking in. Okay. So it's a and when you do it on a tube, you can hear the sound going out, but you hear the sucking coming in, right?
Yeah, I've tried.
Manano would be awesome at the sucking part.
Yeah. Now, Luigi, you just got to be really careful, because when you're sucking in that sound there,
yeah, you don't want to swallow that reed.
Don't swallow that reed, because you know what? In the morning, that sucker's going to sound like a turkey call coming out.
Man, I like Travis, dude.
Yeah,
Well, but you're
awesome.
hearing Travis do it after he's worked and worked and worked. For a lot of people, I think if you just work on doing it a little slower, and there's actually bulls that will even do it that way. It's more of a
oh my gosh.
Yes.
And so
some of them sound like a straight chimpanzee. I mean, it's wild, man.
Yeah.
How they do it.
Yeah, the first time I heard that, Joe, I don't know if you remember, but Joe was like, "Did you guys hear anything?" I don't know, man. I heard something. It's like a monkey, man. It's probably some. Joe's eyes got this big. It's like, get ready. I was like, yeah, it sounded like a monkey, man. I can't be a bull. I was like, sure enough, that it was
the first.
So what would be your advice to a newcomer trying to learn a chuckle like that, man?
Well, honestly, I would say, it is, in my opinion, the most important call that anybody can know, because you want to call those bulls and you want to call the cows as well. It's an invitation to the bulls and an invitation to the cows. So if you want to really start upping your odds and calling lots of elk in, you have to learn that chuckle. And I mean, you don't have to do it perfection. It doesn't have to be that. Just get that sound out there. So it's, even if you can only do that, just do that. It's going to work. It's better than nothing. Because if you guys just stay absolutely silent, nothing's going to happen around you. That's right. Yeah, nothing's happening. So
I think that's such a great message, Travis, because, for some reason, us, like, I started surrounded by guys that were freaking absolute experts at this, and good at it, right? And you're just afraid to make any sound because you're like, and then even when you're out there by yourself in the woods, there's like, what if other hunters hear me? And you get that self-conscious, and it just like psychologically, you kind of you beat yourself up again. It's like, and to your point, it's just like, just make the sound. It's better than nothing, and sometimes it's so hard to get over that, right? And yet once you do it, it's so simple, and then when you start seeing the effects and the results, it's like, oh my God, how come
It's truly the reason the Hoochie Mama's been so effective. It's one sound that's benign, and it's over and over. It's, I mean, how many bulls have died coming to that Hoochie Mama?
Well, if you join that with some of your calling, it really becomes effective. And one thing I wanted to give to your point, Luis, is that I've been in situations where I had a bull coming in, and I would have a dink coming in from the side or a spike coming over there, and I'm trying to get rid of it by doing some calls at it that I'm like, it should go away, right?
Yeah, and he's just oblivious.
They're like, no, and the other bull, and here I'm doing this, and the other bull keeps coming in, even though I'm making these ridiculous calls to it. So that the point is sometimes it doesn't matter to them because there's so many different voices and things that are going on. So
and again, testament to that too. I was there with you when
you were making crazy continuous sounds and lots of them to try to distract the bull, and really all that did was just bring more of them. You know, it's just, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
what the heck?
They're
It's like they're
social,
coming
they're
into
social,
all
they're
this
social
stuff. I mean, you're
creatures,
just
man.
making a freaking, you know,
They want to
tell
be
that-
around other elk, and they're social creatures. That
Yep.
rut's going on. You know, Joe and I
they're
hunted.
curious too, man.
Yeah, super curious. Joe and I hunted the first year without chav a few years back. It was rough, but you know, we went out the first morning and first rattle out of the box. Joe, we like you, Travis. We'll do a little location, see what happens. I mean, it was on, dude. They bulls blowing up everywhere, and I don't know how many sets we had where we had encounters with bulls, but we had a group of 3 bulls come in on us that. I mean, I thought Joe was going to kill one of them, and Joe thought I was going to kill one of them. And we had a decoy, and we're filming, and
you're both filming.
Yeah,
like,
we're
you
both
shoot. No, I'm
filming at the
filming.
same time. And I'm like, Joe goes, "You go ahead and kill him when you're ready." And I'm like, "Bro, I ain't even got my bow. I got my phone out. We're videoing." And this big bull opens up and sounds just like a monkey. He's heard all of us going on, and he goes, and I looked at Joe and I went, "What?"
Well, he was doing that bark chuckle.
Yeah, I was
Right?
like,
Oh, yeah.
"What in the world is that?" So Joe kind of went right back at him, and man, that rascal come on an absolute line, big 7x7, man.
Oh, wow.
Straight in, and I probably could have shot him at about 58 yards frontal, but I had some trash in my way. And it just didn't feel right. So
Yeah.
I'm like, any minute he's going to turn broadside. And when he does, he's getting the missile because he was way big enough for Big O to let one fly, you know. That rascal came in there straight on to us. And as he angled, he got into some real thick brush. And he's got bulls over here on the right that he's seeing. And he's got us standing over there. Man, it was the wildest scenario you'd ever seen. But he would not come any closer because he couldn't see us. He could see those other bulls over there.
He should have seen us, right?
Yeah.
He should have seen us, but he couldn't. So he was real sharp about that, man.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that's why he's doing the bark in front of it first.
Yeah, he's demanding for us to show ourselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in that scenario, Travis, what would you do to try to finish him off?
Well, basically it's when he's trying to tell you he's barking at you already, he's probably got you pegged down. So you're 58 yards away. He's at that distance where he's not coming no more. It's honestly what I would do. Yes, exactly. What I would do, I would honestly go silent and I would let him play out his little game. And then they're going to mold back into the bush a little bit. That's going to give you guys time to move up a little bit, maybe off to the side, reset the whole scenario again. Because you know he's willing to play. He's willing to come in.
Sure.
And you've called him in once already. You'll call him in again. You know what I mean?
Travis, you got to know something. When we got elk in the set, there ain't no way me and Joe going to be silent. I mean, we're going to be talking, man. So it was a joyous occasion. And we were like, how did we not kill a bull out of that whole thing?
Well, the problem is I already had him where I couldn't see him because I'm trying to pull the bull back, right?
Yeah.
And in the process, I ended up calling in 2 other groups that came in to me. So I'm like messing with them, and the other bulls over there, and it was just one of those crazy fun situations.
Yeah. And what's going to happen there is basically that bull's going to come. He wants to play with you, but once the cows get fed up, because he's going to have cows, a bull that size, he's going to have cows. They're going to kind of get bored of the scenario and get fed up, and they're going to start going back. And that's why the bull turns and he goes with them. Exactly.
Makes sense.
And the only way, we call those the runner bulls. I don't know what you guys call them, but the only way once the cows. Yeah, we got several, eh?
Starts with a J and ends with an O.
Yeah. So the tactic I found that's the best for turning one of those bulls, I'll let them go, and you'll hear him. He'll be bugling still. He'll be 100 yards away. You'll move up. He'll be 200 yards away. You'll move up another 100. He'll be 250 away. You're like, shoot, this guy, he keeps going away. The only way I've found to turn a bull like that, move up again, get really close, and and don't bugle to them. Just grab a dead old tree branch and just absolutely go ballistic. And I mean, smash that sucker as hard as you can on the tree and try to be as violent as you can. I mean, if it's a 10-foot tree, by the time I want you to be done, I want you to be holding a 1-foot piece that you can't even hit anymore. Honestly, that's, especially a bigger herd bull like that, that's the only way I found of turning one of those bulls. Once he starts going and following his cows, you got to be super aggressive for him to come back.
So the other strategy, and I was actually going to bring this up about what did you do later on for herd bulls, because that's exactly what you're talking about there. And the reason he's a runner is because he is stopping, he's bugling back at you while his cows are still moving, and then he ends up jogging up to them. So it seems like he's literally going up. But my other strategy is we get up on the parallel downwind side and try to, because as things get smaller at the top where they're moving, we literally try to move up parallel in a position and actually pull the cows to us and not worry about the bull. So we start going into an aggressive bull scenario where we're displaying and being bigger than the bull that they're with, because again, the cows choose which bull they want to breed with, and if there is a bigger, more dominant bull in the area, you're going to pull them to you. So that's another strategy that we use.
Yep, absolutely. I could totally see that.
It's not an easy one though, because you better be ready to move, man. You know.
Yeah. And I've seen your guys' terrain with all those rocks and all that stuff everywhere. You're going through it all, and man, oh man. We don't have the rocks and stuff. We got game trails. We got grass and rose bushes that are waist high and stuff like that. But it's all pines and spruce and poplar trees.
Well, we're going to see it in 2023.
You're going to love it. When you guys come up here, yeah. If you see one rock that I make you step over, you'll be like, Trav, this is a rock here.
Oh my, dude. When you come to with us this year, brother, you're gonna be like, oh my God, what is this we're walking on?
Chav RC, do you think you'll discover those rocks?
Oh yeah, we got plenty of rocks for him.
Hey, Betty, you tell him about them volcanic rocks.
Yeah, man.
That's okay, man. We don't need to hear about the volcanic rock.
They unbelievable, man.
You don't need to encourage him, man.
Like
we'll go hunting. So Travis, man, so let me ask you, what are the toughest calling scenarios or situations that you've ever experienced? And then, and you just talked about one of them. We just brought one up. Because that running bull is a tough one. What are some of the other real toughest calling scenarios that you come up with, and what did you do to overcome them?
So the other toughest one for me personally is once you've went through the whole archery season, and now it's the first day or first week of rifle season. Archery season, you have a third of the people that are out there, but come rifle season, the droves of camps are moving in 3, 4, 5 days before rifles even opens. And so you're competing with all these dudes, right? So that's the hard part. That's when I really drop down into those bulls, because a lot of these guys, they're quadding the lines, driving the roads. They don't want to do the work and get in the bush, whereas I'm totally different. I'd rather be in the bush following a game trail, like we talked about fly fishing earlier. If I see that one bend, I'm always wondering what's around the next bend. When I'm following the game trail, I'm the exact same way, man. I'm just stupid. I just keep following the game trail. Well, where's this trail going? It's going to go to feeding. It's going to go to a spring. It's going to go to a wallow. It's going to go to a bedding area. That's where I find all the bull bedrooms that I was telling you guys about. That's all following those game trails. And that's all thanks to rifle season opening and all the pressure being on, because those elk, they move back into the thick stuff when they get pressured. And that's right in the heart where I want to be.
One of your key elements of locating or finding elk or where they're going to be is being in their hallways, on their roads, following where they go. In other words, you're going to use those elk trails.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. You won't find me on walking down a cut line or bugling from the road, walking down a road trying to find a bull. If you can get in the bush, and there's something about an elk, he doesn't want to walk on a cut line or across an open meadow or something like that. But once they get 10 feet in that bush, it's it's a whole different world to them, and it's like they feel safe again, and that's when they're really willing to chuckle back or do some moans or groans, or what a lot of our bulls do. They won't say anything, but they'll just go clunk with their antler on a poplar tree. And if you're really in tune for that kind of stuff, you'll hear him knock his antler, and you'd be like, okay, man, there's a bull right over there. And then you know. And the other way that I find bulls following those game trails, I'm always watching for the crows and the ravens and all that kind of stuff. When they fly overhead, when they fly over a herd of elk, they're squawking. They're like, quack, quack, quack. They're telling you right where the elk are. So if you're paying attention, it's going to be probably 200 or 300 yards over. But man, you're going to hear those birds. And I've been with buddies, and I'll be like, oh, the elk are over there, 200 yards. They were like, how do you know that? I said, oh, those birds flew over. They gave them away. And they're blown away, man. So now you can literally follow that game trail, and you can just sneak in there, be ever so quiet, stay on the game trails as much as you can, because the minute you get off of them, it's like, it's tangled rose bushes and thorns and nasty stuff. You don't want to get off that, but get in there. That's when you can use the little cow technique again. Just send out one little cow sound. Or what I like to go into, I like to up it just a little bit, and I'll change it to like a tending sequence. Because if there's a bull with cows over there, you've moved into this area, and how I start off with my little tending sequence, I'll literally just do like couple little cow mews and then a couple calf sounds, and I'll just go back and forth with mom and calf, and then I'll just throw in just a really low note little bugle and just keep it real simple. So I'll show you. I'll just do it on my little calf reed here. Really just keep it really low and nonchalant. And basically I'll do that same sequence. I'll usually do that sequence, what I just showed you. I'll wait about 2 to 4 minutes kind of in between, and then I'll do that sequence again. And then the next one, I'll throw in the little chuckle as well after that little low note, little bugle. And that's again, just inviting those bulls over. And a lot of times that's all it takes. And they come over. Because if there's a bull over there, if he hears you tending a cow, man, there's not a bull on the planet that doesn't want to come over there and steal that cow from that bull. You know, so you start tending a cow, man, and I call it the tending bugle, but it's also their search bugle. You guys have heard the search bugle when a bull's like searching for you. It's just that little low note, really short. And I think they're the same
like
bugle.
A lazy bugle, like when they're in their bed, right?
Yes,
Kind
exactly.
Like, I'm right here. Come on.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And it sounds honestly way better when you're out in the bush and your reed is kind of more on the worn out side of it. Then you can really do that little low note bugle stuff, and it sounds a lot more authentic when you're out in the bush. But man, it's worked every year, time after time, and nobody talks about doing that. They're always doing the advertising, and they're challenging the bulls, and they're doing this and that. Nobody talks about the tending sequence, and it's just a little nugget that I keep in my pocket, and it works every year.
So mine is just a little different in that I really like to use little glunks, huffs, and whines, right?
Yep.
And I'll just add a little bit of that cow in there or calf sequence, but most of it is that bull making those noises. And I know a lot of people have never really heard a bull huff in the woods, but it's amazing, man. I mean,
they moan.
They'll sound like a tank when they do it. But when they hear another bull making those huff noise and those whines, they know exactly that they're with another cow, that they're frustrated and following that cow along, right?
Yeah. And also add the realism, pull some grass and swish your feet through the grass. Take your bugle tube and and whisk it through the grass, tickle a couple branches with it and
Roll
stuff like
some rock.
that.
Yep.
And even those little branches that have the leaves, like a willow, just pull those leaves and stuff off. They hear you pulling that and they're ripping. They think it's the elk are actually eating and feeding and doing stuff. And those sounds, man, anytime you can make it more realistic, it's awesome. That's the more realistic, the better, because that's just gonna suck them right in.
So let's talk about, guys, let's throw some things out there that other hunters might have experienced. Some of those tough calling, like we just asked him about, some of those tough calling scenarios that maybe some of us have experienced out there. And let's talk with Travis about how, if he's experienced it and how he handled it.
So RC Knox and I, we'd hunted all morning, and we got into a little area that was part of a bedroom, and we were actually a little below it. And I had just asked him, you know, I didn't know jack crap from elk hunting, but I knew we'd walked a long way, and we were been up here in one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. And we were on the edge of a little aspen forest in a little bitty park. And we decided that we're going to bail off and head back to camp. And I said, RC, why don't you just make one more call or one more bugle or something, see what happens. And he goes, yeah, sure, no problem. And he goes, here, and I mean, like right across the park from us, this bull just erupts, man. And he looks at me and he goes, oh my God, he goes, let's go. So, I mean, we sprint across this park towards the bull, get set up, right? We got the wind, man, everything. It's like perfect. And this bull you can hear him, he's coming. And he just keeps sounding off. And we ain't said a word. We just shut up, hadn't said anything. And I think RC did get on his hyper call that he had and give him one more little nudge, right, with that hyper call. And that thing's so awesome. It got that nasally, you know, that buzz sound to it. And he was coming. I'm in front of some jack pines are in front of me, and RC's behind me pulling the bull. And man, it just like I could hear the bull coming through the timber, the whole 9 yards. He's got to be within, I don't know, 45, 50 yards that I thought. And actually the bull was a whole lot closer than that, right, RC? Yeah. And we didn't know it, but these jack pines are in front of us, right? So he needs to step out to the right about, I don't know, 10, 15 feet, and he's right there, right, within 20 yards. That bull, I don't know how they're so big, and I don't know how they stay so camouflaged. I guess their dark legs kind of look like them jack pine bottoms, right? But that bull hung up, 25 yards from us, RC, in the jack pines, and shut the hell up. Son, he didn't say another word and just stood there. RC and I looked at one another, and I'm like, and he goes, I'm looking this way, looking that way. RC walks right up to me, and he goes, you see him? I'm like, no. He goes, yes, he must have smelled us or something, you know? So we're looking around. We're standing right there. The bull is, unbeknownst to us, the bull is standing there watching this unfold. He can't see us either, and he can't smell us either, right? But he is standing there, and he's got cows with him, because you can hear the cows in the background mewing. Yeah. And RC's like, he's got to be right there. So, you know, we've learned this over trial and error. Who moves first is going to lose, right? Yeah. And we moved first, right? And when RC steps out to look, the bull is staring at us, you know, he's staring at him 20 yards away, like, oh man, what the hell is that? Bull just walked out of the jack pines, right? Yeah. And needless to say, bull takes off. And we did stop him, but he was in such thick stuff. Oh, that, but he never knew who we were, because he never smelled us. I think he saw us and was like, hey, man, that's alarming. Who the hell is that in my bedroom? You know, the only thing I can, you know, how do you keep them? I think 100% the setup is so crucial, right? Yeah. We had too much stuff in front of us, but hell, he kind of pinned us down anyway. So if he just steps out to the right and walks through through the thin stuff, he's dead, right?
Yeah.
But he comes through the thickest part of all of it, right?
Yeah.
I think that was one of the things that, and I had the same scenario with Joe too. The same thing is the bull hangs up and doesn't say a word. He doesn't even mew. He doesn't pant.
But we're
nothing.
talking between 15 and 20 yards. Close, tight.
Yeah.
Close.
Yeah.
15 to 20 yards, right? And I've had them within 12 feet of me, and I've seen them since then. But this opportunity was really made because we engaged the bull the first time and then went to him. I just think if we would have kept the jack pines in behind us, I don't know that he would have saw us coming in, though. I mean, it's kind of
it didn't make sense to him, though, Gilbert. If you think about it, he's only 15, 20 yards away from you.
And he don't see
there's
us.
This bull that's been over there screaming. He's stopping and listening, and he's not hearing nothing, right? I mean, that's where,
I think we just needed to be more patient. Like maybe
roll
waiting out another
behind
10
you or something like that. Just something that
maybe
sold it a little bit,
Yeah. What would you have done, Travis, in that situation?
So my whole life, I've always, anytime I can call anything in, a cow, a calf, a spiker, a 3-point, my whole thing is play with them as long as you possibly can play with them, because that's when you honestly learn so much. Because when you call them in and they're, like you say, they're 15, 20 yards away, man, 99% of people are scared to call to them. And that's where you have to really just do the chuckle at them, throw a cow mew, throw calf calls, scream a bugle at them, and just play their game. Because they're an elk, they're expecting elk sounds anyways. So that's all I can say. Even with that big herd bull and he's behind those jack pines, don't be scared to call. Just give him something. He wants something anyways, and he may just turn and walk through that opening like you want him to, or he might just turn exactly around and go straight back like some of those bulls do, right? But if you don't try again, if you don't try a call, if you don't rake a tree or try to make him move, like a lot of times, just try next to him and kill a bull in a spiker or whatever. A lot of times they'll just kind of skirt you by 20, 25, 30 yards. And if you keep playing with him, he'll end up doing a circle right around you. And dang well that they smelled you. Like this happened to me and Dylan last year. And this little 3-point, we're a 3-point zone, so we're legal. So Dylan could have shot this bull. He literally came around. He ended up 10, 15 yards right behind me doing all the calling. And I just kept chuckling, the low note bugle, chuckling. I got to the point where I was standing up against a little willow tree, and I would literally go reach forward and bend over at the waist and grab leaves off the branch and start pulling them. And I would hold them up at my mouth and pretend I was eating them. And then I'd just let them fall. And I'm kind of looking over at this bull. He's standing right beside me, 15 yards. And he's just looking at me going, what in the world? He's eating those leaves. I want some of those, right? And Dylan's just sitting there looking at it going, what am I watching? So we played with that bull for honestly 40, 45 minutes. Dylan filmed the whole thing.
That's sweet.
And afterwards he's like, Trav, I can't believe what I just saw. I've never seen anybody do that with a bull.
And so you're right, man. That is 100% the best way. Chav and I got into some bulls one time where they were across a barrier and we had to watch them, but they got within 12 feet of us, right?
Yeah.
And they get discombobulated because they get a little whiff of us, but they couldn't find us, right? And so they kind of run off, and I'd put my bugle tube behind me and softly cow call and like that. And man, they come right back to the what was up, right?
They just come right back.
Just kept playing back and forth with them, and when we shut up, we probably should have kept saying something to him, like you said, doing something.
Giving some movement, man. I think the problem everybody makes is when that happens, they go silent and they go sneaking. So here this elk's come in and they're expecting to hear another elk and hear all this stuff, and everything goes quiet, and that's a red flag for them. So I mean, if there had been some kind of noise, some branches, RC could have even walked off and made some noise raking as he was walking away.
Some
That
was so
booger
hot
would've come
on
right
us,
there,
man.
followed him.
We were worried about him seeing us because he was so hot on us. you know?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
So did we say discombobulated? What was that?
You caught that, eh?
Luis, you said you had a situation.
Yeah. So
Thank you, Travis.
more of a more common than not. Peak season, bull is herded up, surrounded by cows. You're a bow hunter. You locate them, you find them, you get close, but you're surrounded by cows. You got a bull tag.
Mhm.
It's a herd bull. Obviously, there might be some satellites around, but you want that herd bull. How do you get that herd bull to come in when he's surrounded by cows, right? And they're eating, and this is late afternoon.
So it's late afternoon. Are they up from bedding for the afternoon, and they're getting ready to head out? So we see that a lot. We
But I
all
love
hunt
the question though, because it makes a difference, right? The time of the day makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. Yeah, absolutely. Because we all hunt the moon phases, and everybody says, well, you hunt the middle of the day. That's when let them bed down, and then that bull's going to lay down for a couple hours, and then he's going to get back up. He's usually going to let out a little, like you say, a bedded bull bugle or something like that to tell you he's up. Then he's going to scent check his girls. So I just kind of wait them out at that point, and I'm just sitting there waiting for him to get back up. Because you got to realize you're contending with all those eyes. You have their eyes, their ears, their nose, and you guys know, for the most part, you can fool their eyes and their ears, but you'll never, ever, ever fool their nose, no matter what.
You won't see them. They'll be gone.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So make sure you got your wind checker. You're checking the wind all the time. And like I say, stay on those game trails and try to be as silent as you can and move in on those game trails until you actually want to make noise. And then that's when I'll start, breaking branches at that point, just kick some rocks if we don't have much for rocks, but we have tree roots that cross the trails and all that stuff. Knock your boot on those tree roots, because that sounds like a hoof hitting as well, right? So just do a little bit of stuff like that. Your ultimate goal is to try that. You're gonna try to pull that bull away from all those cows. And like our bulls, honestly, when they herd up here in archery season, they'll get 5. If a bull has 5 or 6 cows, that's a lot.
Oh, wow.
Like we don't, up where I hunt here, you don't see 20, 30 cows with a bull.
That's normal where we are.
Yeah, it's they just break off into little bachelor groups, and a 3-point will be a herd bull. And he's breeding 2 or 3 cows, and then 200 yards away there'll be a 5-point, and he'll have 2 or 3 or 4 cows, kind of thing, right? So but yeah, that's when you have to kind of move in. That's when I'll kind of get fairly aggressive. I'll start raking trees, breaking branches. And then you guys heard the bull calling cows bugle that Paul Medell talks about and stuff like that, or Joel Turner talks about it a lot.
Let's hear it, brother. Lay it on us.
It's basically really short and it's raspy, and you kind of pop it at the end. Really short. It's very short, aggressive. And basically, like you guys know, you're basically talking to the ladies at that point.
Right.
So you infuriate that bull, he's definitely going to come looking. It's something to try anyways, because if you can't get past all those cows anyhow, you're going to lose the battle anyways.
Right.
So you might as well try something like that.
Yeah, it's basically what you're talking about, like a display bugle. You're displaying to the cows, and
yes,
I think that's the problem is everybody wants to engage the bull, and and really, if you
talk to
ignore him and talk to the girls, he will come.
Really turned up.
Build it, and they will come. So that's
I've
really
actually done it.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I really like the thought of the comment of, hit them logs with your boots, as if you're, a bull walking through the woods and you just kind of making that stump noise. I thought that was cool. Yeah.
So the only time I'm honestly really quiet is when I'm kind of moving in on an elk to get to where I want to set up. That's the time I'm really quiet. Anytime after that, I'm making noise, pulling leaves, pulling grass out of the ground, ripping the roots out, tickling branches on the trees as you go by. Because you don't want to be sneaking in on those bulls and cows and being absolutely silent. Because what walks around the bush and is absolutely silent?
Yeah.
Predators, man.
Exactly.
That's predators are silent. Like, you guys have been stalked up by cougars or bears or.
No, I haven't. I hope I would never be.
Well, wait till you come up here. 2023.
Oh no! Oh no!
If you see something moving with no sound, that equals a predator.
Oh, that's a predator at all times. Yeah. So move into your area. Once you're in your little setup area, do elk type sounds. And I mean, you huff and puff into your grunt tube and do all that kind of stuff. Do some glunking. Glunking just.
Yeah.
It don't take much. Anybody can do it. A lot of guys have a little tube thing that they just glunk on, or a beer bottle. I've seen guys do it on beer bottles, stuff like that. Those really low guttural sounds, man, that could be just a ticket of bringing one of those bulls over. Because if he's hearing you glunking, he knows you got cows, man. Because a bull's he's not glunking. If a bull doesn't have cows, he's got no reason to glunk. That's him talking to the girls, keeping the girls all in check, right close. And you have to be very close to that to hear it. Like,
Absolutely.
Most hunters probably honestly have never heard a real bull glunk other than on like YouTube or something like that.
Yeah, Luis's bull, Gilbert's bull, just about all these that they all died to a glunk. Man, the glunk pulled them puppies up, because that equals a bull with cow. Man.
Yes. So I didn't add that into. Yeah, that's right. So you add that into your little tending sequence.
Yep.
Man, oh man, you got some deadly sounds there.
Paul Medell's really big on the glunk to finish it off, right? He said, you want to finish something off, you get the glunking.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That's right.
Go ahead, Joe.
I was just checking. Do you have another question about a scenario, Gilbert? Anybody else? Chav?
No.
The only question I have, Travis, is how would you get a beginner that's starting right now today to be prepared to hunt in September? What would you suggest for a beginner?
Well, so basically,
can you get them ready?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Because I do a lot of seminars where I'll literally teach kids and young ladies and beginner gentlemen to call right away, like in front of my table at the seminar or at a trade show even. And you have to teach them where to put the reed and what sounds they need. They only need like a few little basic sounds. I believe you need to have a calf sound, a basic cow mew, and basically a location bugle, which 1 or 2 note location bugle. And then I tell them, take it one step further, learn the advertising bugle, which is the same as, and I'll show them it's just shorter, and use your voice, and I'll get them to, and man, you learn those calls, you can call in bull anywhere you go. It don't matter. You'll be calling bulls in and having a blast doing it, because that's the whole thing. Just don't be scared to call. Get out there, do it, especially when you're a beginner, because I take new guys out all the time. I do most of the calling, but I still make them, guys that are with me, I still make them do some bugles and stuff like that. And like Luis was saying, like most guys they're terrified. They're like, what? You want me to bugle? Like, oh man, well, I'm not as good as you. Like, I can't do that. Yeah. I'm like, man, just let her rip. Have fun with it. Just
absolutely
send it out there. Because you guys know, like, some of the worst bugles get the answers back. Like, you can sound like a songbird and send out the most perfect bugle, and you'll hear silence. Whereas you get that rookie guy, let them do their screen thing, and there'll be a bull that fires off. It's like, holy man, see, you just called that bull.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So it honestly don't matter if you're a beginner. Just if all you can do is do a cow mew or a calf sound, go to the bush and do that cow and calf mew, and just go have fun with it. If you can call that spiker in or that cow, play with them as long as they'll let you play with them and just do their thing. Because an hour with a real live animal in your lap is more than anybody can show you on YouTube or anything like that. I mean, like you guys know, I've been hunting since I was knee high to a grasshopper. I've honestly probably forgot more stuff that I've, screwed up on and learned from and forgot in my whole hunting career. I learn stuff every year, and it's like, man, I forgot about that. Why didn't I try that? Right? So it's a constant thing. I've been hunting elk probably 35 years, and you're always learning. So, and I feel like, honestly, I feel like a beginner going out there every year. Like, you get out there and you're all giddy and you do that first chuckle of the season or something like that, and you get a bull and you're like, yeah, man, they're still here, right? and it's even better when you have your own read to do it on.
Man.
When you guys get an answer,
Wapiti River on it.
Oh man, it's gonna be awesome, man.
Can't wait,
gonna be awesome.
Travis,
uber
that
excited
was awesome.
to be. It is.
Yeah.
Uber excited to be part of the Wapiti River family. Travis, we can't thank you enough for what you've done for us here. Unbelievable content. Guys, you got all of this content from a world champion elk caller, Mr. Travis O'Shea. Thank you so much for being with us, brother. Guys,
Thanks,
if you like what we're doing here, please subscribe, rate, and review. You got to go to Apple Podcast or iTunes to review us. And you can check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com. And just a reminder, if any of our listeners would like their questions answered on our show, just send your questions to info@ElkBros.com. That's info@ElkBros.com. And like we say down here in the Lone Star State, and you boys up there north of the Canadian border as well, husbands, kiss your wives. Wives, kiss your husbands. Hug your babies. Keep your broadhead sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting. Catch that grinder.
Look at that. There it is.
And for all our grinders out there, here's some more music from our brother from the north, Mr. Tony Winstrip, to close out our show.
We had a wallow down a deep draw surrounded by some brush, and every time I'd see the white tips get the Rocky Mountain rush, a constant swing of thermals had him sniffing up the wind as the blood and sweat and tears of mine came rolling down my chin. I saw a monster with no shots to take, points on top like a garden rake, tracks as big as a Clydesdale on the run. And he talked trash to me while he ran away, and I'll be back to ruin his day when the elk gods come to call on malicious. And the temperatures start to drop, so I packed up ready to make my way up on the mountaintop. With a quiver full of 6 and 3 blades sharp and ready, my Hoyt was maxed out and all I had to do was hold her steady. Delicious was a man above a man. When he let the thunder roll, you could hear him all across the land. He was painted with a splash of mud, and he weighed more than $1,000. Now it's him and I at Timberline, and he's down to his last stand. Was a man above a man. When he let the thunder roll, you could hear him all across the land. He was painted with a splash of mud, and he weighed more than $1,000. Now it's him and I at Timberline, and he's down to his last stand. Slipped out on me one time and he left a few behind. So I followed up the trail or his eyes soon met mine. And I greeted him with a Maxima Red and a Muzzy 125. Yeah! Felicius was a man above a man. When he left the thunder roll, you could hear him all across the land. Yeah, he was painted with a splash of mud, and he weighed more than $1,000. Now it's him and I on the mountaintop, and Felicius is in my